Hello. Well, I've come inside because it's raining out there, and if I go in the caravan, you won't hear me. It might still rain here, and it's a tin roof, so I apologise for any rain noise. So this video was on the back of some of the comments that I was getting quite often on the last videos that I've done regarding the price of the equipment and the caravans that you're buying, and the fact that a lot of people saying that they were going up and up and up and up, and they've gone to a point where they're actually not achievable anymore for kind of normal people, or on a bit of a living wage. So I started off with this video thinking, actually, yeah, that's the case. They've gone up exponentially in the last few years to levels that we've never seen before. And then I started kind of doing a bit of research, and actually found a surprising bit of information, which I'll talk to you about a little bit later on. But first, I just want to recap of why we're talking about this. So obviously I've said in previous videos that there's a caravan crisis at the moment, and that is a kind of a perfect storm of different situations that we've had, where we've had the people after COVID who have decided to sell their caravans, excuse me, and so all those are coming back in. We've had the cost of living crisis, which has kind of forced people to look at that asset sat on the drive for £10,000 and think, actually, I could probably do with that in the bank rather than being sat there. Then we've got the issue, which again I'll talk about a bit later, with the cost of actually doing the caravanning. So you go onto a site now, whereas you could get a site for £10 a night. Now you're looking at £50, and it's actually pricing people out of the market, so they don't actually want to go caravanning because they can't afford it. Excuse me. So that's a few of the reasons why we're starting to get into this issue with buying caravans and selling caravans as well. So you might think, well, what's the impact on that on me? Well, if you're trying to sell a caravan, then you will see, and if you've tried to phone up dealers or maybe put it on the internet, you would have probably found that it's a very difficult thing to do. The dealers either are offering silly money for them, or they just don't want the product at all. I mean, I've had personally probably 15 or 16 caravans offered to me last week. I've had 3 this morning being offered to me, and I'm just in the position where I can't take it. Now, the reason that doesn't help the current kind of, keep saying crisis, it is a bit of a strong word, but the current situation, let's say, is that if us as dealers are being offered lots of product and we've already got bulging forecourts already, the problem with that is that we don't want to have too much stock in case we do get somebody who wants to buy a new caravan or a second-hand one, and they've got a part exchange, because then that stops us from being able to do that deal. Say we've got 3 580s down there, and then a customer comes in and they want to change in another 580. The problem we have is that we really want to sell a new caravan, but do we want to put another 580 down on the forecourt when we haven't sold the 3 we've got? So that's the problem with the dealers at the moment, where they've may well, and certainly I've done this, I bought caravans at the end of last year thinking, oh, it'll be okay during the winter, the prices won't change that much. So I've got product down there that I've paid last year's money for, which I can't sell now, and it's starting to depreciate to a point where I'm kind of not making any money on it. So there's kind of a bit of a reset of the market, and it is kind of the dealer's fault, to be fair, as well. We have to put the blame on us, where we did actually make hay while the sun shone in COVID, and we were not charging too much, although there were probably some people out there that were kind of taking the mickey and putting the prices right up, just they knew they could get it. But also the dealers that weren't doing that weren't knocking the kind of money off that we would historically do pre-COVID. So we were just holding the price. So the price was there, and that was it, and we didn't change it. So it is a bit of our doing to that degree with the kind of prices that we've been seeing. The whole market was kind of held up with the prices keeping on going up. Sometimes people were selling their caravans back to us for the same kind of money they were selling them. They bought them for 3 or 4 years before. and then we were making a profit on that. So that is partly our fault as to why we were seeing this kind of rush of people coming back in again. And then the disappointment of what that product is now worth, because a customer may well have bought it in a high period just after COVID, when we were all charging, you know, big money for them, and now the market has crashed and we don't want them anymore. We're offering quite low prices. So as a result of what's happening at the moment with people trying to sell their caravans and not buying caravans because of the reasons I've mentioned, then you will be seeing lots of deals around. If you go on to the internet and have a look on Facebook and things like that, you'll be seeing significant reductions in price of summer sales. Now, obviously, whenever there's a sale, it means that the dealers have got too much stock and they're trying to distress sell them. That's what a sale is. It's never really for your benefit. It's for, you know, it's for the dealers to get rid of their stuff. And sometimes we're seeing, you know, several £1,000s off some of the higher end stuff just to get rid of it off the finance line because of the new 2025 caravans coming down the line, which I've spoken about in my other videos. So are those deals any good? Is it worth taking up that deal now if you were thinking about a 2025 van for next year? Well, before we get into that, I will just want to address what I've been hearing on the comments in the last videos, because I've had so many people saying that the products have gone up to such a price now that they're unaffordable, and that they've shot up exponentially in the last 5 or 6 years. And like I said earlier, that's what I thought. But then actually, and I was preparing this, I've got lots of notes down here which you can't see, which I have to refer to, but I was preparing my notes, trying to kind of get to the bottom of how much these products have gone up compared to what they were going up in previous years. And I was fully prepared to think, oh, they've gone up an extra 50% because of the extra things that problems that the manufacturers have got with electricity going up and all that kind of thing. But actually, I didn't find that. And I found out for something fairly strange. Right, so what I've done here is I've kind of looked at comparable caravans. And there's not a huge amount comparable, but there's the Conqueror and the Exclusive. So it, all by name, it's pretty much where the Conqueror was back then it is now. So what I did is I had a look at a 2018 Conqueror 580. And I've used a Swift Exclusive 580 as a kind of comparison. So I thought, well, let's look at a deal to see what that would cost to change now. So a Conqueror 580 in 2018 is worth now, it is now trading at £16,025. So what I'm going to be doing is just to keep it all level is trade-in value and cost of the new product now, just to give a bit of a comparison. So trading at 16,025, the cost of a new Challenger Exclusive, not with any deals, is 33,975. That's a cost to change at £17,770, assuming that your dealer will give you the trade value for that part exchange, which, like I said earlier, might not happen. So that's just a comparable. So the price to change now of, if you're changing out of something that is 2018 and you want to get into a new van in 2024, £17,770. And I thought, well, that sounds quite a lot, but what would that have been 6 years ago? So that's a 6-year-old product, which is, again, a good time to change. You might think a little bit earlier, 4 or 5 years is better, but that's what I thought would be a comparable kind of age. So what I then did was have a look and see what kind of deal and how much it would have cost to change to a 2018 van from a 2012 van. And this is what I found. So a Swift Conqueror in 2018 new was £28,000, give or take. The trade-in value of a 2012 Conqueror 570, which is the kind of van that someone would have changed to get into the 580, because the bed is an island bed and it was a side bed on that. So it's kind of something similar anyway. If that customer had that, they'd probably want a 580. So cost to change to get into a 2018 580 Conqueror from a 2012 Conqueror 570 was 17,500, which is around about the same as what the price of change is now. Bearing in mind, everyone thinks that the new prices have shot up to high levels, when actually they haven't really. It's just a perception, I think, because what's happened is that the pre-owned models have kind of come up with the new models. So as the new models go up, the pre-owned are worth more because that kind of gap stays the same. So actually, the price of change, if you've got comparable models between the last time someone changed like this and this time, is actually the same. Now you could then say, well, I haven't got a part exchange, and that is a case where if you haven't got a part exchange and you're not, you haven't kind of benefited from that issue, then yeah, it's a lot of money. So then I thought, well, how much have they actually gone up in comparison to how much they went up before? So are we seeing an actual issue where nowadays they've gone up even more and they're going up every single time, which it seems to. I would have agreed with everyone. Every time I see the price, it looks like it's gone up by £500. But actually looking at it, this is what I found. So what's the difference between those two caravans, the 2018 Conqueror and the 2024 Exclusive? So we've got Conqueror £28,000 in 2018, the 580, and in 2024 the Exclusive 580 is £33,795. That's a difference of £5,795. That's how much a comparable price increase is over that period of time, 6 years. So then if we look at the difference between a 2012 and a 2018, so a 2012 Conqueror new, £20,800, a 2018 Conqueror, £28,000, which is a difference of £7,100. So actually the price increase between the later one, between 18 and 24, is £1,300 less than the price increase between the 2012 and 2018. But I wouldn't have said that that was the case. I would have said that they've actually gone up a lot more, but they haven't, which is a bit strange really. So you could argue that actually that the difference between 2012 and 2018 was fairly significant because they went through a lot of changes. Whether those changes have been well received and whether they've been viable and was it worth doing is another video topic, which I think we've covered before, because you could argue that the product isn't as good as what it was. But are we seeing the same issue, whereas we think that's the case, but we're looking back through time with rose-tinted glasses, like we all do? I mean, we all say the 70s and the 80s were much better than they were than they are. Well, I do, my age. So we always look back and we forget what it was actually like. Did we have the same problems back then as we do now? It's just because they're here in front of us, we are, we're seeing them, whereas back then we can't really remember. Again, that's something for you to leave in your comments and say, no, actually, I'm getting more problems than I was back then. Or can you just not remember them? Or maybe not so worried about it. I don't know. That's something for the comments. And that's using the example of a Conqueror. When you look at the sprites and things, they have changed similarly, but not quite so much. So they have gone up a little bit more in comparison to the older vans that they went up. But I think they didn't change so much in the early period of time. It was an entry-level van. And back in 2012, I think an entry-level Sprite was £13,200. And now it's 25,000. So that's 12 years later. Now that's the issue I've got with how I've seen my business change, is that back then £13,200 was achievable for a lot more people than £25,000 is now, because the prices have gone up all that way, but the wages and the ability for those same people to buy that product hasn't. So that's why, as I saw those prices increase, I saw my sales decrease. And I spoke to a friend of mine earlier, and he said exactly the same thing. As the prices have crept up, the ability for the, I say normal, people that are in that bracket, to be able to afford that product has gone down. So that's where I got to the point last year where I just stopped selling them, because the prices have increased out of the range of those people. And that is probably what we're talking about, rather than the prices going up too much. They've gone up kind of the same as they always have done. In fact, a little bit less. They've slowed down a little bit, get off. But the ability for us to buy them has not been in line with that increase. So that might be the issue that we're seeing here. So we're blaming, we're not saying blaming, we're looking at these prices thinking that there's too much money. They've gone up too much, but they just haven't gone up within line with what we can afford. And I think that's where this kind of crisis thing has come in, is that we've got to a point now where it's tipping point. Is it can't go back down to get these people that would normally buy this amount of product into the market. It's going to the point where it's going to be only the top few that can be able to afford it, even at an entry level caravan at 25,000. And it's not just being able to afford it, it's the willingness to do it as well. It's like, well, you might be able to afford it, but you don't want to. It's like when I said about my pickled onions that I like, it was £4.50. I like pickled onions. I don't like them that much. And I can afford £4.50, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to spend that kind of money on something that, I don't see that as perceived value as being, something that I want to spend it on. So that could be, again, where we're seeing that price increase get to the point where we've actually decided, look, no, we just don't want to. We don't want to spend that kind of money on something. And you don't have to either. There is the pre-owned market. So if you're looking at buying pre-owned now, it's the best time to do it because there's loads out there. You can pretty much pick and choose and nearly name your price. So that's where we are at the moment. So let's get to whether the deals are actually worth doing. I had a customer come in the other day and they literally said, I'm thinking about buying a caravan next year. I've got a Challenger 480 that I want to sell and I want another 480. And I basically said, what reason is it for wait for next year? They said, well, we want a newer model. I said, basically, the best thing to do is go and buy a caravan now. Because as you've seen in the press and online and everything, these vans at 2024s are being sold at cost, if not below cost, just to move them off the forecourts and to get them off the finance lines, because cash flow is a major issue with dealers at the moment, which have got lots of stock. Now, obviously, we've seen a few dealers not make it through that, and I think we'll see a few more dealers go that way as well, because there's some significant amount of stock out there, and unless you've got the money to back that up, as I said in other videos, then unfortunately that's when it gets to again that tipping point where you haven't got the money to pay them off, and then you just unfortunately you're in a position where you have to give up. So if you are thinking about buying a 2025 caravan, I would say that the kind of money that they're knocking off now is worth looking at buying a 2024 rather than waiting for a 2025. Because historically, the difference between a year, say you come to change it in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time, normally around about £1,000 difference between a 25 and a 24 in the book at that time. Now, obviously, if you're saving £3,000 or £4,000 on that product, then that £1,000 is more than taken up in that reduction of price that we've got now. So it's worth doing. Also, from his point of view, the part exchange will be worth less in 2025, and it's a bit of a gamble as to whether some of those deals will be available then still. I would have thought, because the dealers have actually committed to 2025 products, there will still be deals in 2025 as they kind of keep this panic going and try and just get rid of them quick, and not make money on them, just to kind of move them off the books, which I'll talk about why that's a problem in a minute. So I would say that it's worth doing a deal now, because your part exchange is going to be worth more money. This is if you can find the product that you want, this is probably the best time to buy a caravan, because they're being reduced a wholesale. Also, it's not just a few dealers that are doing it. I'd say anyone with major stock levels at this time of year will be doing the same thing. So it is important not to chase around the country for that extra £1,000 off. Look at your local dealer and see what they're doing. And don't forget that it's best to have a relationship with your local dealer. Give them your business so that they can look after you, rather than chasing around for silly deals up country somewhere when you then have to take it back. So with that in mind, I would say it's a good time to buy a caravan now. Take advantage of those deals. Don't wait for 2025 because I think, like I said, your part exchange won't be worth so much and those deals might not be there. So what's the issue that the dealers are now going to have? And I might have approached this in one of my other videos, but I wanted to go over it again just to tell you where we are as dealers. So if you then sell all your 2024 stock at either a loss or best cost, you're not making any money on it. So that's not great. Maybe you've had to give a little bit extra for your part exchanges, so you've got more stock on the forecourt than you probably like. If you can get that at the right price, that's not so bad. But the problem is that you're taking people out of the market in 2024 by trying to just distress sell this new 2024 old stock, and then you're taking those people out of the market for 2025. So that restricts you from being able to make some profit in 2025 because there's no one to buy 2025s because you've sold all the 2024s to those people that have benefited from that those reduced prices. So it has a knock-on effect from the next year to next year. Obviously, we're here to make money, and that isn't achievable if you're trying to just distress sell everything all the time. And then we kind of do it the same with the second-hand stock. You kind of get a little bit deal chasey. So you think, oh, look, I've got to sell that because if I have got someone who wants to sell me another one of those, I can then get that in. So if you're looking to buy a caravan, whether it's pre-owned or new, now is the best time to do it. And you can kind of really get your pencil out and get those deals sharpened. Because the dealers will be fairly keen to move whatever they got on out of stock. Some caravans are more, what's the word? Desirable than others, and it also depends on what they've got on the forecourt. If you, like I said before, if you've got 3 of one already and another one comes in, I don't really want that. But if you haven't got anything, that might well fit in with the stock. So if you have got a part exchange, just find out where you are with the dealers if you do want to change. Now also, some other comments that we were seeing was that people are getting out of caravanning altogether because of the cost of actually owning one and using it, but also because of the issues that they've been having. They don't want the hassle of going on holiday every time and then something else happening. So it is not a good position to be in where you've got lots of comments with people saying, look, I've just given up caravanning, I'm going to go abroad. That's not what we want at all. But that is what's happening. That's adding fuel to the fire. Is if the market's shrinking, if people that are actually that like caravanning and historically have done caravanning for a long time and now giving up because the products are letting them down, then again, that's a real kind of wake-up call to the manufacturers to try and do something about it. And then, like I said before in the other video with the trust, I'm still not seeing where that's going to come from. I did see an advert from one of the manufacturers saying, you can trust us, and I thought, are you listening to your customers? Because I'm not seeing that, and I don't know where they're getting that information from. And it's not for them to say you can trust us, it's for them to prove that we can trust them. You can say something all day long, it's the proof is in the pudding. You kind of got to back it up. So that's not a good thing either. I was going to talk about other misconceptions as well. I think I'll do another video on that, but this is the biggest misconception. I think, looking at these figures, I could be wrong, and it'd be interesting to see what you think, that actually we haven't seen a massive increase relatively in the last few years, which before I looked at those figures, I would have thought exactly the same thing. I'd have thought that the manufacturers are overpricing their caravans, and they're not. It's relatively the same as what they've been doing all this time. Right, I've got a customer. I've just got to pause it. I'll be back in 2 seconds. Right, back to it. So the other misconception that I wanted to address is that I got quite a few comments with people saying that the parks and the manufacturers have been greedy and they're putting their prices up, and that's why they don't want to go caravan anymore, because there's just too much money. But they kind of put the blame on the manufacturers and the parks as well. And I just wanted to address that, because I don't think that's the case. It's not in the manufacturer's interests to outprice their market. So as I said before, as the price goes up, every time a price goes up, even by £200 or £300, it takes a few people out of that market. It will be just about affordable, and then a couple of extra £100 and it's not. And there's probably a formula that would tell you how many people you lose in the market every time you do that. So as we've seen the prices go up and up and up, each time that happens, then that proportion of people go out the market. And that's not good for the manufacturers, obviously, because that's not what they want. And like I said before, back in 2012, when we were selling vans at £13,000, it was affordable to a lot of people. Now at £25,000, it's not affordable to the same amount of people that it was back then. So it's not in the manufacturer's interest to keep on pushing prices up. So they're not being like greedy, I don't think. They're trying to make a profit, and they're trying to make the books balance. I'm not saying, I'm getting the smallest violin out saying, oh, poor old manufacturers, because, I wouldn't do that, but they do have to make money. Now, if you can imagine how much electricity has gone up in the past few years, and look at what your bill was, and I've done it here, I was shocked. 1 month it was X, next month it was Y, and I thought I'd left several caravans on it. It wasn't. It was the base unit had gone up from 12p to 45p overnight, pretty much. Now imagine that on a factory level, on the scale of owning a factory and having to run a factory on electricity. I mean, it must have been absolutely eye-watering, the one bill from 1 month to the next. That's where we're seeing these price increases. We're also seeing the price increases because of the bureaucracy from stuff coming over from Europe because of Brexit, things like that. So the prices that they're being charged by everyone have gone up, so therefore they have to put their prices up. And obviously, it sounds obvious this, but it's not the case that the manufacturers of paying the same money, we'll charge the customer more because we can get away with it, and then we're going to make more money. I don't think that's the case. I mean, looking at the manufacturers' accounts would tell us, where they actually are lying with that, and whether they're making money or they're not. Obviously, then the wages have to go up, because the people working at the factories have got mortgages to pay, which have gone up. They have to pay more money to get into work because the fuel's gone up. They have to pay more money because their electricity's gone up. So therefore, the wages have to go up in line with that. So it all kind of goes up, and then the manufacturers have got no choice but to put their prices of the products up, and that's just the way it is. But I don't think there's a kind of the manufacturers are greedy, and it's the same with the parks as well. They don't want to be charging this kind of money. They've got a certain amount they've got to make to be viable, and that's where they've kind of got to look at what their base costs are, and then what they want to make, and they've got to make that bit in the middle, and that's where the profit is. So again, I don't think it's fair to blame the manufacturers and to blame the parks and everyone associated with the caravan industry for putting their prices up. Apart from the dealers in the COVID crisis, then yeah, okay, I'll give you that one. I would say that we did, take advantage of that situation, and we're paying for it now. So we can't moan about that too much, because we did take advantage of it. So that is the one point where actually I think that is the case. But then the manufacturers, they didn't put their prices up. They weren't making more. They couldn't set their prices any more than what they were, because they were, they've set them a couple of years beforehand. So they didn't actually make any more money in that time when we just held the prices. We didn't reduce them to what we normally do. But they sold everything, and they sold it all pretty quickly. So it was a nice comforting position to be in, but the manufacturers didn't really make the same kind of money as we do, because we buy them at a certain price and we sell them at whatever we want, and that's where we kind of made our little bit extra. So that's the other misconception, I think, that is going out there, especially in the comments. And again, put them in, put your views in the comments. I could be completely wrong, There's probably people out there that have got a better handle on it than I have that might tell me different. And like I said, I'm open to hearing that. So it'll be interesting to see what you think with those comments, and see where I am with it. I might annoy a few people with those comments, but I think if you really think about it, I think that's kind of the way it is. I don't think the manufacturers are sitting there going, oh, we're going to make loads of money, and then just taking a mickey. Because again, like I said, if they do that, then it's having a knock-on effect of taking people out of the market. So it isn't a good thing to do. They want to get the prices as low as possible and sell more product to get it all rolling. So again, waffled on enough. Hopefully I've said a few things that are right in the grand scheme of things. I don't think there's anyone saying this again, so could you share it? Like, subscribe, all the usual things that you get asked to do on YouTube channels. It'll be interesting to see what you think, and I'm looking forward to the comments. I do read every single one, and sometimes it takes me quite a while, and my wife gets a bit annoyed with constantly looking at my phone, but you know, it is interesting to read your comments. So I will keep doing these if I've got something to say. And I think what's happening is the more I say, the more comments I get, so the more material I can get to talk about. So it's kind of self-perpetuating, which is really good. So thanks again for listening, and I'll see you on the next one.